Nigeria, a nation celebrated for its vibrant culture and economic potential, finds itself grappling with a sinister reality, a pervasive kidnapping crisis that has gripped the nation in fear. This scourge affects people of all walks of life, from villagers in remote communities to students seeking education and even to families in bustling urban centers. The frequency and audacity of these abductions have reached alarming levels, leaving citizens questioning their safety and security. The epicenter of this crisis lies in the northwest and north-central regions of the country, where armed groups operate with impunity, often targeting schools, villages, and travelers. Driven by a toxic mix of poverty, unemployment, and access to weapons, these groups have turned kidnapping for ransom into a lucrative enterprise. The vast sums of money extorted from desperate families serve as a lifeline for these criminal networks, further fueling their operations and perpetuating the cycle of violence. The impact of this crisis extends far beyond the immediate victims. The fear of abduction casts a long shadow over everyday life, hindering economic activities and eroding trust in the government's ability to protect its citizens. The recent kidnapping of 20 medical students in Benue State stands as a chilling testament to the escalating audacity and brutality of these criminal gangs. These students, on their way to an academic convention, were ambushed and abducted, their dreams and aspirations shattered in an instant. Their captors, demanding a hefty ransom for their release, have plunged the students' families into a nightmare of uncertainty and despair. This incident, tragically, is not an isolated one. It reflects a disturbing trend of targeting educational institutions, turning places of learning into hunting grounds for kidnappers. The abduction of school children, particularly in the northern regions, has become tragically commonplace, leaving communities traumatized and parents petrified of sending their children to school. The targeting of educational institutions represents a particularly insidious aspect of this crisis. It not only deprives young minds of the opportunity to learn and grow, but also strikes at the very heart of Nigeria's future. The true human cost of Nigeria's kidnapping crisis can only be truly grasped through the heartbreaking stories of those who have been directly impacted by this scourge. One such story is that of a father from Buari, whose life was irrevocably altered when he and his 4 sons were abducted from their home by armed men. Forced to endure a grueling 10-hour march to the kidnappers' hideout, the father and his sons faced unimaginable terror and uncertainty. The father, desperate to secure his son's freedom, was forced to liquidate all his possessions to meet the exorbitant ransom demands. Even after paying the ransom, his nightmare continued, as the kidnappers only released 2 of his sons, demanding further payment for the remaining 2. While one son managed to escape during a military patrol, the family remains fractured and deeply traumatized. Living in constant fear, unable to trust even their own community, they embody the devastating psychological toll that kidnapping inflicts on its victims. To effectively combat the kidnapping crisis, it is crucial to understand the complex web of factors that have allowed this scourge to take root and flourish. At its core, the crisis is a symptom of deeper societal ills that have plagued Nigeria for decades. Poverty, widespread unemployment, and a lack of economic opportunities, particularly in the northern regions, create a breeding ground for desperation and lawlessness. For many young people, joining criminal gangs like those responsible for the kidnappings becomes a viable, albeit dangerous, means of survival. The government's limited resources and capacity to effectively police vast swathes of the country further exacerbate the problem. Porous borders, corruption, and a lack of coordination between security agencies allow criminal networks to operate with relative impunity. The Nigerian government, facing mounting pressure to address the kidnapping epidemic, has taken steps to combat this growing threat. Efforts have been made to strengthen security forces, enhance intelligence gathering, and improve coordination between different agencies. However, the scale of the challenge, coupled with the deeply entrenched nature of the criminal networks, makes this a daunting task. The issue of ransom payments remains a contentious one. While the government maintains a strict no-ransom policy, the desperation of families often leads to clandestine negotiations and payments, fueling the cycle of abductions. This highlights the need for a multi-pronged approach that addresses both the symptoms and the root causes of the crisis. Addressing the kidnapping crisis in Nigeria demands a sustained and comprehensive effort that goes beyond simply strengthening security measures. It requires a commitment to tackling the underlying socio-economic factors that create an environment conducive to such lawlessness. Investing in education, creating employment opportunities, and empowering marginalized communities are essential steps in providing viable alternatives to crime and desperation. Strengthening the justice system, tackling corruption, and fostering a culture of accountability within government institutions are crucial for restoring public trust and ensuring that perpetrators are brought to justice. The fight against kidnapping is not just a battle against criminals, it is a fight for the soul of Nigeria. It is a fight to reclaim the nation's future and to create a society where all citizens can live in safety and dignity.